Hey my friends and fishes, welcome back to another video. Before we dive into today's video, I want to give you guys a quick reminder that my videos on autism are all really centered around my own autistic experience and are not meant to be taken as medical advice. You may experience things differently and that's totally okay. That is in fact what makes this a spectrum. And if you found my content because you're wondering if you yourself may be autistic, I want to encourage you to do further research on the subject. And to help with that, I've included my autism playlist and a few other resources in the description box down below. Okay, now let's get into things. So I was at a mermaid meetup recently and had a wonderful discussion with a few members from my local pod about how there seems to be a real overlap in the people who are neurodiverse in some capacity and the people who really like mermaids and mermaiding. And we were kind of wondering maybe why that is. And so I decided to give it some thought because after I had posted my initial here's my autism assessment experience video, and if you haven't seen that, I'll be sure to link that somewhere for you, I noticed that a lot of my followers are also autistic or like neurodiverse in some capacity, like ADHD, among other things. And I started to get a lot of comments and a lot of messages from people being like, oh, I knew it, or me too, or this kind of a thing. It sort of became just this like opening of a whole new world, if you will. And that's really what I want to talk about today. But before we dive in, I want to mention that today's video is in part brought to you by my wonderful Patreon pod community, made up of merfolk from all over the world. We have a private Discord community, which is where all the magic happens. And if you join, you'll gain instant access to hundreds of hours of recorded live streams, bonus videos, photos, behind the scenes artwork of my tales, progress shots, the whole nine. And you'll also gain exclusive limited access to my custom mermaid tale creations as well. I know a lot of you guys ask how you can get custom mermaid tales made by me, and that's how you do it. There is a little bit of a process to go through to get there, but all of that information can be found over at vancouvermermaid.ca under the commissions tab and under the Patreon tab. So a huge shout out to my Patreon pod community. I love you guys so, so much. Okay, so in order to kind of make this all make sense, we have to rein the seahorses in momentarily and talk about special interests and kind of what those are and what that kind of means to the people who are in this community. So what is a special interest? A special interest in the autistic sense, and this is kind of me paraphrasing the different interpretations that I've seen, as well as what's in the DSM-5, but it refers to a very restricted and abnormally intense area of focus on a specific subject. Sound familiar? And before you go and say, because I love this, I love when people say this to me, they'll be like,
oh, but everybody's really interested in something. Like, everybody has hobbies.
Okay, this is not like I really like cats and like I have a couple of mugs and a keychain maybe, and maybe I also have a cat. This is not like that, okay? This is more along the lines of all I ever want to talk about is cats. Just cats. Maybe this one specific thing about cats. If we're not talking about cats, I'm finding a way to put cats into the conversation. I'm bored if we're not talking about cats. It's all I'm thinking about. Cats. Cats. Like, I don't know why cats. I actually am not really a cat person. I'm a dog person. But I picked cats because cats. It could even be that you have like a massive collection of this like specific thing to do with cats. And it's really interesting because when I had my assessment, it's sort of funny because I didn't think that the mermaid thing was like, I kind of knew. I didn't really know. And when she was asking me like, do you like collect any specific things or do you have a special interest in any specific area? And I got talking about my monofin collection, which is extensive and very specifically organized. And you could just see like the gears, like she's just like, oh, I'm like, So this isn't just like a little thing. This is really kind of a bigger, look at the bigger picture, people, okay? So the other way that it differs from just like, oh, this is a little thing that I'm kind of interested in, is it can actually be very debilitating. Like if you actually go on TikTok, which I do not recommend, TikTok is like just a wasteland of, oh my God. But if you should ever end up on TikTok, okay? There are a lot of autistic creators who will talk about this and who will be like, yeah, I spent 12 or 13 hours fixated on my special interest and I didn't eat and I didn't shower and I didn't sleep and I didn't whatever. So it's not the kind of thing that you can very easily pull yourself away from and can be entirely all-consuming. And again, I say this from kind of my experience as well, because there have been times where I will be so focused on working on something mermaid related, like mermaid tail design or something, and all of a sudden the whole day will have gone by. I won't have eaten. It'll be like 3 p.m. I'll be like, I don't think I've had any water today? And when was the last time I used the bathroom? Is that my stomach rumbling? Like, why do I feel sick? Maybe it's because I haven't eaten, because this is all that I've done all day. Yeah, it's definitely not ever happened. So for me, in case you weren't able to quite make the connection why there's autism and like mermaid content on this channel, it's because the mermaid tail making and like mermaiding and the act of doing the mermaid thing is all a huge special interest of mine. This is like all consuming. This entire office is just mermaids. Okay. It's everywhere. It's all of the things. It's all of the time. It's every day. It's what I want to talk about. You want to strike up a conversation with me and you're meeting me in person and you're like, oh gee, I don't know. Just unless you would like me to just unload upon you all of my knowledge about everything mermaid tail making related ever, like maybe just don't. Or I'll probably bring it up anyways. I'm pretty good at knowing when people have had enough of me because it's like a trauma response. Like I just kind of know that I should just shut up. So I do. It is really all that I really care to talk about. So yeah, that's kind of how my channel started, right? My first videos on this channel were me painting with this itty bitty little paintbrush, mermaid scales on fabric. I was making my very first two tails. That's what kind of kicked it off. So, cause yeah, we're just gonna touch on something like super, super quick. I have gotten a bit of flack, which like, I get it. I do. I've had a couple of people who are like,
Yeah, after you posted your autism, your videos, like I stopped watching.
or
Why couldn't you just have made a second channel? Like we're not your therapists. Nobody wants to see you crying about your autism.
I just want to share like a little tip. This is like revolutionary. If you see something on the internet that you don't like, did you know that you can just keep scrolling? Did you know this? This is revolutionary. This will change your life. You don't have to watch something if you don't want to watch it. I've picked myself up, dusted myself off, and I'm fine because that's who I am. But oh boy, couldn't imagine if you said that to somebody else. Yuck. The irony is if you've ever liked any of my content ever, you've liked autistic content because I'm autistic. This is my special interest. I make these videos because this is what I want to talk about. The joke's on you, being like, oh, I preferred your mermaid content. Well, my mermaid content is also autistic content. So moving on. But really, why are so many autistic people actually drawn to mermaids? I have theories, okay, so buckle up. First off, mermaids are just awesome. Let's just get that. That's just obvious. We're just gonna get that right off the top there. Not only can mermaiding be a really great tool to escape reality when life gets hard, and let's face it, since like most of us have been playing this nonsense on hard mode lately, this feels especially relevant, but it's also a wonderful way to move our bodies in ways that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. It's a great way to stim, to get a different sensory experience, and to just have the feelings that you can't really move around your body. So like a large part of what stimming is and does for me is it allows me to process emotions and things because I don't necessarily process them in the same amount of time that other people do and in the same way. So if I'm ever stuck on something, oftentimes what I'll do is just crank on some tunes and just dance around and just move my body in whatever nonsensical kind of a way. And that helps me move through it. That's a pro tip, by the way. The next time you are stuck in something, put on your favorite song and dance around and look like if you're not feeling stupid while doing it, you're not doing it right. You need to feel like you're just like flip-flopping it around, and all of a sudden it kind of comes together and you're like, why am I feeling better? So, but like swimming can do that for you as well. You're in the water and how you're moving your body is different than how you are when you're just sitting and trying to pretend that you're a normal person. Now, I will be honest here and say that mermaiding for me is actually something of a sensory nightmare. It's horrible. And I will get into some tips of how I make it easier and how I actually navigate this further down, because that was also something that you guys wanted to know. But honestly, getting my hands wet is one of the worst things you can do to me. Or my feet, my hands and my feet. I have a really, really hard time with the transition between my hands being wet, like not just like washed wet, because I actually wash my hands quite a bit, because that's a whole other thing. We won't get into that today. But if my hands have been wet for a prolonged period of time and then they start to dry, no, there's a reason I have tubes of hand cream. If you've ever watched any of my vlogs, I have these all over the house. Like anytime I wash my hands, I always have to put on hand cream. So I'm one of those autistics. Now there are the people who are like, hand cream, oh God, set me on fire first. Like, okay, so, but I am one of specifically this one. The pound cake is like, the best smell in the world. Oh, but also if I have, that's the reason I shaved my head, swimming with long hair, hard pass. It's, even though I do wear the wig in the water, the wig seems to be different than having my actual long hair because it's not pulling on my entire scalp. It's just pulling like here and here. So it's not so bad, but there's a lot about being a mermaid that for me is just like a no-fly zone. It's not great. It causes me a lot of problems. There's also like the noise, because it always echoes. Like a pool is always echoing. Have you ever noticed this? It's horrible. The echoes are just insane and it's loud. And why do they always have to have really obnoxious music playing? And then there was one pool that I went to. Oh my God. I don't know if it was their like filtration system or something, but it was like a tack, 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 like over and over and over and over, and it just never stopped. I am telling you, I thought my head was gonna explode. You can't tell in the video because I'm that good at masking, but I'm telling you, I had such a cry in the shower afterwards.
What is that sound? That is awful.
It was good. So for me, when I'm not in a tail, maybe I've just got like my leggings on with a fin skin or just a monofin or whatever, and it's just me. I've got the nose plug, the goggles, the earplugs, my favorite MP3 player. Like I am in my element. That's where I'm at and I'm loving it. That's what, for me, that's the best way to be. Yes, I love my mermaid tails and I love making the content and filming the videos, whatever. But for me, I much prefer the fin skin experience because when I do have, because it happens, I have had meltdowns in pools and I have had bad things and pain flares and just all kinds of stuff. For me to just be able to rip off the fin and get out of the water and go calm myself down, or even be able to calm myself down in the water, is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's beautiful. And I definitely haven't been like that my entire life. There was a time when I much preferred the full tail skin. That was probably with Chester, not my current Chester, but like several Chesters ago. And the first Chester iteration. That tail always made me feel safe and cozy, but as I've become more and more, I've sort of edged closer towards the end of burnout, in a bad way, not like coming out of it, but like going into like the depths of hell. That's just become a real problem that I've had to deal with. So the fin skins have been wonderful for that. Shameless self-promotion there. We have new ones coming out. New colors are coming to the shop, guys. We're doing a full like Halloween, Mertober. We're going autumn themed. Oh, the colors, and they're so good. And I can't wait to share it with you. You guys are not ready for this. I'm telling you, I'm not ready for this. I need them all. So for me, like the mermaid experience is definitely more about the actual experience and less about what it looks like, because sort of in my life, what I look like seems to matter more to everybody else and seems to be of a much higher priority. So making sure that I look a certain way or I act a certain way or I talk a certain way is much more important to my existence outside of the water. Like, and when I want to be myself and not really worry about what my face is doing, sometimes it's just nice to go a little bit more low key, you know? But for people who do enjoy the sensory experience of mermaiding, the tails themselves can offer like a wonderful compression sensation on your legs. And because it's a larger part of your body, that squeezing can be really nice. And it has been for me as well in the past. So a lot of people really enjoy that. And a lot of people will say that actually being underwater, and if you're in a quiet pool, I can see this, or if you're by yourself, kind of a thing, don't swim by yourself. Don't be that person. Safety first, please. Went mom mode on you there, didn't I? Whew, sorry about that. But underwater, it can be nice and quiet, the weightlessness. So if you've got chronic pain issues, that can be very nice. And I do experience that as well. And so that's a real plus side of it. Merfolk also tend to represent strength and freedom, which is something I feel like a lot of us maybe feel like we lack. We don't feel like we have the freedom to be ourselves, and we don't feel like we have the strength necessarily. Some days it's just too hard. You just don't have enough spoons. It's just too hard to be yourself when you have this opportunity to embody this whole thing. It's sort of like being your truest self is what that kind of represents. I think if I could speak for myself, now I have spoken to other merfolk who feel the same way. So I know it's not everybody's experience, but I do feel like that is largely what it has to do with. It also just helps get your mind. Like when you're like there is something to be said for a mindset shift, and it is something important to experiment with. But I do not want to say that this is the be all and the end all of everything, because no amount of positive thinking will ever turn stairs into an elevator, okay? As somebody said that to me once, and it just blew my mind, because I was like, yeah, it's very true. There is nothing that can be done. I can wear and use my accommodations, but it's not going to change the way that my brain processes the information. Now, how I choose to frame things, if I can try and to find the positives out of the negatives in this kind of a thing, but like there is something to be said for when I go full Courtney mermaid, like I've got the wig and I've got the makeup and the jewelry jewelry and the Shalusian top with my matching tail and all of my gear, and I am everything. It doesn't happen too often now because I've just been not in a great place for such a long time, but there have been times where I do feel like a completely different person, and I get to embody all of my kind of everything that I wish that I could be, even if it's just for an hour or even 15 minutes. So there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different things going on. And I think it's very, I don't want to be like, oh, everyone's so shallow for thinking it's such a kitschy little hobby, but it actually has a lot more going for it than you realize. I had a mentorship program that I actually used to run surrounding all of the mentality of mermaiding and just what it actually does to help people. Because there have been times in my darkest days where this is what's kept me going. Now, I know in part of that is the autism, and in part of that it is mermaiding by itself, because I know a lot of neurotypical people who enjoy mermaiding and get the same benefits that I do, short of it being also my crazy special interest, like, you know, kind of a situation. Now, I feel like the last main point is community. And this is kind of a biggie because let's be really painfully honest here. When I think back to my childhood, or I think back to, like, I have had friendships here and there. I have had people in my life come and go. I have belonged in one way or another to different things. Like, you know, I played field hockey growing up, and that was something that I did. And I had a really close friend on the team. I didn't particularly feel like I belonged. I've always been an odd duck. So I've never really felt like, you know, it was the kind of thing where the kids in the playground, you're like, oh, well, I want to play with you guys. And they'd be like, oh, well, no, we're playing with so-and-so and you can't play with us, kind of a thing. Or I've always gotten weird looks, or people, you know, it's always kind of been a thing. So when I kind of, and it still happens, actually, it does still happen in the mermaid community. There are one or two people who I have obviously rubbed the wrong way and love to give me looks, or maybe I'm even interpreting too much into that. I could be just misinterpreting their own faces, right? They could be feeling a way that, how do I know? I'm not in their heads. You're not in my head. You don't know. You don't know what this face means, right? Like, how are you supposed to know? I don't know. The community that comes with, like, it's a large community, like, it's grown exponentially over the years. Like, I've been sort of a part of the community since 2011-ish, give or take, and I've definitely experienced bumps along that road. Oh God, if I'd known. I'm telling you, if I had known, it would have been so good. It would have been so helpful. Why do you want to know? Why do you need to know? Why do you need to know? Shut up and stay in your lane. Can't people just let people be? Like, just all the way off, please. So generally speaking, the mermaid community is so welcoming and so open to people of all walks of life, okay? Gravitate towards this. And for the most part, again, you always have to say it like that because no community is perfect. We all kind of come together and kind of just accept each other for who we are, right? And embrace our differences most of the time. And of course, there are people who get it and people who don't, because I will say it's not just autistic folks who gravitate towards mermaiding, right? So you're always going to have your people who are like, you know, who give you the wicked side eye, right? And of course, there are people who choose ignorance over awareness and acceptance. But hey, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? You know, so it's never going to be something that you can totally escape. You know, there are times where I will get, you know, my autistic joy will upset people because it comes off as excessive or too loud. And these are things that I've actually been told. So I'm not just pulling this out of thin air here, okay? Sometimes I'm too animated. And let's just face facts. Like, the whole world isn't just out here watching my videos in the hopes of understanding me better, okay? Like, really, I'm not that out to lunch, okay? Because really, like, who cares? Like, we've covered this in other videos. Everybody's got their own shit going on. And I'm not about to go up to every single person who makes a stupid face at me and explain to them my entire life story. Like, I have better things to do, okay? And then there's also this really interesting fact that just because two people are, you know, autistic and or like neurodiverse in whatever capacity, and also like mermaids, does not mean that they're just gonna, like, do you know? Okay, I feel like maybe this should just be something like in italics in every community, is that we're not all of us gonna get along. Like, there are other factors at play here, okay? It's just a really good rule of thumb to just not make any assumptions, yeah? Take the time to get to know people. I've had experiences, guys. Like, I know that you know me up to a point, and I don't know you, short of if I've ever come across a comment of yours in a video, but never assume until you actually get to know the person, right? That's a whole other kettle of fish, but it is just true. Like, you may have things in common, but it doesn't necessarily, like, I have people in my life who I have a lot of things in common with, and then I have some things that are very much not in common with. And I do have to kind of navigate that sometimes, and it's interesting, but it is just something that you have to do. And also, there's the irony of just being autistic and what that actually entails, because just because two autistic people like get together and are in the same room does not mean that they're not going to drive each other up the wall, okay? Because for instance, I really cannot. Okay, I cannot tolerate chewing. I cannot tolerate repetitive visual or auditory like stimulation. That is not something that I'm in control of. And so if you're like drumming your fingers or fidgeting in a visual way, like shaking your foot or like bouncing your knee up and down excessively, and yeah, I go ahead, judge me for it, okay? It's not something I have control over, and I do use tools like sunglasses. I have a hood that I'll wear in the house sometimes, headphones, earplugs. Look, I am doing my best not to be a pain in the ass to everybody I'm around, okay? It's not something you're gonna have your opinions and that's fine. So, but the part of that that's ironic is I also need to be able to do these things. Like, I also need to be able to rock in my, I'm not ever this kind of a person, really. I'm like this kind of a person, or I'll do the shaky fists, or this. There's a lot of different things that you will have seen a bunch of them, and you can't see, like I can't with my toes. Apparently my dad does this. Dad, if you're watching, do you still do this? Where you just like, you're constantly like moving and wiggling your toes? But yeah, these are like little things that I do, or the fact that I have my legs like triple crossed. So like crossed legs, and then the other leg is like crossed around again, which apparently is a hypermobility thing, but good luck getting a doctor to listen to you about anything ever. It's fine. So it's really a whole helpful host of things. Like, on one hand, I find these things horrendously annoying from other people. On the other hand, I need to be able to do these things, and these people need to be able to do these things, and we need to be able to coexist. It's a whole thing. Oh my gosh. Then there's the fact that I mask a lot higher than a lot of people. I feel like, anyways, again, I don't know what everybody's experience is, and I feel like maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there are other people, like maybe you feel like, well, no, Courtney, I'm actually masking as hard as you, like how can you judge that? But I do feel like I do mask very high, which is why I went undiagnosed for so long, and I do have what could be perceived as lower support needs. And so because of that, people will tend to view me a certain way and have a certain expectation of the things that I can and cannot tolerate. Yeah, that can create a whole host of like interesting scenarios and things that you encounter. It also means that I will sometimes really struggle to enforce a boundary that, because of how high I mask, will seem very extreme to other people, but to me it's like a necessity, but I still haven't, it's all a work in progress, okay? You guys are getting this for real, for realsies. I have my script over here, by the way. That's what I keep looking at. So, and then like all of that said, there are some parts of the community that are truly special. My Patreon pod is one of those places, and I know I did like a little ad for it earlier, but just in all honesty, whether you come to join us or not, it's just, I do need to give these guys like a whopper of a shout out, really and truly. They are such an amazing group of merfolk, and who have shared a lot of these experiences with me, and who have been through a lot of things alongside me, and who are always willing to talk things through and clarify and because we have, like, I have kind of I think I actually have it in the rules. It may be like kind of an unspoken rule, but it's just a rule. Like, if ever somebody says something and you are taking it a kind of way, you have complete, like, absolutely, you are allowed to ask and just be like, hey, I am reading this way. Was this your intention? Yes or no? And then go from there. Because I feel like that should just be a clarification clause, needs to be a thing everywhere. At work, at school, with friends, with family, with everybody. Like, if you need to clarify, like, hey, you just made me feel like this. Was this what you intended? Because if it was, we're gonna have to, like, there's gonna be like a fork in the road here. We're gonna have to make some decisions. Imagine. Just imagine. But those guys have been incredible and helped me learn a lot about them, and a lot about myself, and a lot about just some of the crazy nuances that come with having access to a community online, and them having access to me, and just building this crazy relationship. Like, it's such a cool thing. And like I said, I got to meet a couple of you guys more in person recently, and it's just like, you're just like me, and it's so cool. I mean, you guys are yourselves too, right? Like, obviously, but it's just so neat. Like, we talk and I just love it. I don't know. Sorry to gush. It's just a thing. What are you gonna do? But it's been a real blessing for me over the years. Like, I've been hosting that community for a long time. And it makes me really happy, even just specifically for that I posted that very first autism related video, because so many of the Patreon pod came to me and they're like, oh my goodness. First of all, we already had you pegged. And second of all, welcome to the family. Heck yes. We even made a neurodivergent channel on our private community Discord so that we could talk about these things. And we do. It's a wonderful thing. I don't know. I wish that for all of you out there. I really do. I wish community and love and compassion and patience and understanding for all of you. I really do. You're more than welcome to come and check out the community as well. It is a paid community, but we have a lot of extra things going on over there, and there's never any pressure. You guys are always welcome to hang out in the comment section here as well. And so I just wanted to say again my heartfelt love and appreciation for my Patreon pod. Now, the good part. Okay, we're getting to tips for autistic merfolk. This was something you guys have asked a lot about, and I really wanted to talk about because there are things that you can do if you are finding that you are struggling with your mermaid experience and you just need a little extra something. I have a couple of tips. Okay, so let me refer to my notes here. Okay, so unfortunately, somebody called while I was in the middle of that. Really irritating. Straight up, remember to put your phone in airplane mode. I could just, like, if I'm filming, it should just not. I wish there was a setting. So if it's changed and it's annoying to you, I'm sorry. Tips for autistic merfolk. Let's go. So there are a lot of different things that I do to make my mermaid experience better as an autistic person. And again, I need to like pop a little disclaimer in here to remind you guys that I am high masking, obviously, and I do have what would be considered lower support needs. And so that comes with privileges that you may or may not also experience. And I definitely don't want to override anybody else's experience. So if you have any thoughts or anything to add to any of the things that I've said in this video or what I'm going to say, I would very much encourage you to do so in the comment section down below to make sure we get as many voices out there as possible, because you never know. You could be sitting there thinking, I have this thing to say, but who's going to read it? You might actually be helping somebody and not even know it. So I'm just going to put that out there. Okay. This is all very much related to me and my experience. Okay. I feel like I need to say that because like sometimes people think I'm trying to speak for everybody and I definitely don't. I live up here. I have no idea what's going on by you. I would love to know what's going on by you, but okay. How am I going to do that if you don't comment? Okay. So some of the things that I do include communicating my needs with people. This is such a hard one. Not everybody gets this, okay? But I have a select few people that I will communicate my very specific needs to. So very often that'll be my husband if he's with me and we're swimming. He and I will have kind of a predetermined exit strategy if I do need to make a quick exit from the pool for whatever reason, meltdown, pain flare, whatever. Like this is what you need to collect if I just suddenly run out of here, and this is where I will meet you once I have sorted my stuff out and like what happens and that kind of a thing. So we do have a game plan because I have had some pretty scary like episodes at the pool. So we'd like to make sure that we're on the same page. It also is just a nice common courtesy to the people that you're with, especially if you feel safe around them. It's important that that's part of it because not everybody takes this kind of information well. But I don't ever want Eric to feel like I have put him in a horrible situation or he's done something. So I always make sure to let him know in advance, like, hey, this could be a thing we're going to encounter. And he's an amazing guy. So he always does his utmost to make sure that I'm cool and everything's chill and fine anyways, right? So now most of my friends will get a little reminder here and there of like, hey, if this happens, this is what you might want to help me do, okay? So a couple of my friends have experienced me having a full, like, very not good meltdown. Shout out to Biosa. I love you. I'm sorry. But then not everybody knows what to do in that sort of a situation. So I had made for myself a little pocket in my swim bag that has all of the like emergency things. The Vaseline for my lips, that's always a biggie. My hand cream. I have snacks. I have when I had long hair, I had hair ties in there. There's a body brush in there. There's a lot of things in there that will help me, like, okay, an extra set of earplugs, like all of that kind of stuff. Periodically, especially if I switch bags or something, I'll just be like, yep, just bring me my bag and I will be like, I will know what to do, okay? I will know what to do. It'll be fine. So I make sure that I also keep whatever swim bag I have with me completely outfitted with all of those things that I could possibly need in any given scenario. And I know, maybe is that excessive? Yes, but like, and also if something were to happen and I wasn't prepared, I will go back and try and remember like, okay, what would have helped in that scenario, and then outfit my bag appropriately. So I also always have a plan B. I never ever force myself to stay in my tail like I used to. I don't anymore. If I make it 5 minutes, if I make it 15 minutes, if I make it 50 minutes, fantastic. But if I get in the water and I'm like, ooh, this is not feeling good, I'll give it a second because sometimes it settles. But if it doesn't, done. I'm not going to make myself feel bad about it anymore. I've had a lot of wonderful experiences in my mermaid tails, but honest to goodness, it is not worth putting myself through it. Like if the wig needs to come off, the wig is coming off.
Well, I definitely didn't rip the wig off and scar somebody for life.
Good to see you.
I didn't do that. So
I take days to recover. People don't understand this. When I come out to like go to meetups or I go out to do things, I have to have a day before and like 2 days after before I feel okay again. It sucks. So I have to be very aware. Like if I push myself, it's going to make it worse. And I would rather not, you know, or I'll always choose to end on a high note. So if I'm feeling like this was really good and I'm feeling like I'm having such a good, okay, maybe it's time to pack it in before things go off in a totally different direction. And I always make sure that post swim, I'm set up. I've got like a hair towel because even though I have like 5 hairs, the dripping, no, hair up off body. If it's a hat, great, but usually a towel, like a little wrap. I make sure that all of my clothes are loose and soft. No questionable clothing. Like autistic folks, you'll get this, but like, do you have clothing that you're sometimes okay in and sometimes not? That clothing isn't the clothing they bring with. Bring with the thing, your safe stuff. Even if it's a onesie, okay? Or like a romper, like who cares? I actually have, my romper is in here and I'm usually rocking that when I leave the pool because it's like, bra, we don't need it. It's like underwear in the romper and that's it, okay? And it's soft. I wish I'd bought like 7 or 8 of them. I should have, because like I'm never gonna see them again. I found them on an online sale once upon a time and I'm never gonna find them again. It's horrible. But comfortable clothes, comfortable shoes, flip-flops, I don't care, slippers, whatever, man, but you gotta make sure it's comfortable. And I always make sure to keep my expectations in check. I can get really excited for things, and the excitement is usually like a slip, a trip, a tumble, an elbow bumped too hard into the wall away from a meltdown. I have to be so careful because my excitement can push me over the edge. If I'm too pumped about something, like that can be a sign that I'm heading for disaster. So I really try to manage my expectations. I go and I'm like, whatever's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fine. Something that really helped me was the day that I decided I was no longer gonna film in public pools. That was a turning point for me. I don't bring my camera with to record content okay, I do sometimes, but it's not the main source of all of my content. So if I'm vlogging or something, that's a little bit different, but like I don't do the swimming videos at the pool anymore. You haven't seen one in a long time. Like unless I'm at the pool with Zelda, that's really like that's it. I've determined that it's just not the place for me to get the kind of content that I want to get, and it causes me way too much stress when I have somebody come up to me and tell me to put away my camera or you know, the lighting's bad or it's murky or whatever. There's somebody in the back of my shot, you know, pulling a little wedgie out of their bathing suit and I can't use the shot now because I don't want to embarrass them, and like, you know what I mean? There's just it's a whole thing. So I stopped doing that. Now, another thing that I do that I don't necessarily recommend as a thing that you should do is eye mask. And I don't mean like literal, I mean like I'm masking. When I go to the pool, if I'm going out and I'm meeting people or I'm gonna be somewhere, you guys see me a lot on the internet and you have kind of an expectation of how you think I'll act in person. So in an effort to not burst your bubble, I do my darndest to maintain consistency across the board. I'm not always great at it. And sometimes the mask slips. And that's usually when I get the weird looks like, you know, it's okay. I know you guys aren't intentionally trying to be mean, but don't think for a minute that we don't all see, that we don't all see it, and that we don't all hear it. So it happens. It's okay. It's not okay, but it's okay. You know, I have been told that I'm annoying, even in the comments on my videos. Sometimes I get it. It's okay. I am too much for a lot of people. I am very loud in person. I have control of the levels here, which is why you don't always notice it. I'm a very loud person and I like to talk a lot. And I laugh a lot. And I make funny noises. It's part of my charm. I move around a lot. Sometimes I say very rude or stupid things, not out of a bad place. It's just like it's my face that you guys find rude or I don't know what, but it happens. I'm just not everybody's cup of tea. So I will put on my Courtney mermaid hat really firmly placed on my head and just do my absolute best to be this person for you guys in person. And it is not easy. When I go to swim by myself, I don't really care as much if I'm just literally, I've gone to whatever public pool and I'm just kind of rocking all of my comfort gear, then I can kind of let it kind of be. And I'm not sharing this to make anybody feel bad. And I'm not sharing this to be like, oh, you know, I don't actually enjoy when I go, because that's not true. Like I enjoy very much meeting you guys in person and going out to meetups and doing the thing. It's just sometimes my enjoyment doesn't translate on my face or on my mannerisms. It's awful. It's a horrible thing. Like I could be making a horrible scowling, I've seen it, a horrible scowling expression and be having a wonderful time. So man, like I watch it like a hawk. I'll just be like, okay, just because I need it to be clear. I need to be understood. I am enjoying my time. Okay, so now I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Are you autistic? Do you like mermaids? And if you do like mermaids and you do the whole mermaiding thing, what part of it do you like the most? And how do you help yourself in social situations with other merfolk or just other people in general? Because I know not a lot of you who are here for the autism content are also into the whole mermaid thing. So that's totally okay. You can relate this back to whatever your special interest is if it involves kind of a community aspect as well. Maybe you're part of the furry community, or maybe you're really big into like Lego building, the Lego building community, or like wherever you find yourself. Maybe you're really big into D&D, which I've recently gotten into, and oh, if that hasn't opened a whole world of magic. Haha. So good. Okay. You know, maybe it could be anything. So however you kind of find that you can relate this to yourself, I'm totally cool with that. You want to comment in the comment section down below, let me know. Otherwise, I want to let you guys know how much I really appreciate you for being here, for listening to me, for watching today's video, for commenting, for just being you. I just appreciate you. And if you enjoyed today's video, you can let me know by giving it a big thumbs up. And otherwise, I look forward to catching you all again in my next video. Happy swimming. Bye. It's like a 40-minute long video. Like, what is wrong with you? Can't you just say the exact thing that I've written? This shouldn't have been a 50-minute long video, dude. Like, you could just read from the script. Stop ad-libbing. Heck.